Hello, I am David W. Parker, and today we will be looking at ImmutableJS for Programming Today I Learned. And this is part 1, and we're going to look at the sequence Seq API. Today we'll be covering the construction methods, static methods, types, members, force evaluation, and values equality. A sequence is a sequence of values. It might not be backed by a concrete data structure. It's immutable once it's created. It cannot be changed, rearranged, appended to, etc. Any mutative method will create a new sequence. It's also lazy. It does as little work as possible on any method call. They're often values are created during the duration and basically doing as little as possible until the last minute. You'll just kind of see an example when I get into them here. So let's just kind of work through it. We have some constructors here. These are all the different types of constructors you can use on a sequence. I'm just listing out a few examples, but not doing all of them. So we could take a JavaScript object here and give it this different, I guess, keys and values, and you can see what it outputs in just a second. We can give a sequence another sequence, because this is the first sequence, and that'll be, we'll just look at that later as well, what the difference between those are, or non-difference, I should say. You can give it an array, and so let's just look at each of those real quick. So this is a sequence that each of those outputs. So pretty expected is basically what you're seeing. Static method, we can have is sequence. It checks if a given value parameter is a sequence. And we can have a sequence of just a list of objects as well. So this is demonstrated, right here. So that's kind of similar to this one right here. And it's also just a, the notes mention that it's a basically using seq.indexed.of, and it's just a shortcut for that. We have three types of sequences: keyed, indexed, and set. So if we pass in the original first one up here, to each of those, you can see what they output. So here's the keyed sequence. Here is the indexed and set sequences. They kind of look the same. Indexed is obviously indexed versus a set is not. Members, we can check the size and see how many members are in there. So here, this is the first one. We have 4 members. And so force evaluation, so we're going to cache the results. So I said they were lazy before. This has been kind of interesting. So if we just cache the result of the sequence for A, that's fine. Well, if we're actually doing functional type programming things on a sequence, such as using map, normally they're lazy. So this right here, without it being cached, we'll run a total of 6 times on the map method, 1 for each of these here, and then 1 for each of them here. So that's 6 iterations. And if we use cache result, this one's only going to be evaluated 3 times inside the map function, because we cache the result of that. So depending on what you're doing, you might want to use cache result in order to evaluate and store the values that you have created in some kind of function. Values equality, so you can see A equals A is obviously true. A is also equal to B, which you might not think is true depending on what you're thinking about. But B is just a sequence created from A. And finally, A equals C is obviously false. And the hash code is just this displayed hash code. A couple other notes that are worth noting in the documentation. Equals is defined by the immutable.is function. So if they have equality there, they will be equal. And the hash code, if two values have the same hash code, they're not guaranteed to be equal. But if they have different hash codes, they are not equal for sure. So just because two of them have the same hash code, it might not be equal though. And that's just due to computer science collisions. So this is part one. We will continue to work through the API of sequenced and work our way through all of the documentation on Immutable. If you like what you saw today, please subscribe. Thank you.